guarantee you Marathon is not going to drop below 100,000 concurrent players for the first 6 months.
Greetings and welcome to another Outsider's Perspective. First of all, what you might be seeing in the background of the video is just meant to be a little bit of background footage when I'm talking about certain things that happen in the community. The tweets that you're about to see have all been anonymized. I'm just saying that because you might be recognizing certain content creators. Some of them have been included there, but they are also anonymized just because I don't want to cause unnecessarily targeted harassment for these people. But just saying, if you're looking at a video and you're recognizing someone because their tweet or whatever they have written online has had some sort of media impact and has been popular in the past, it's not because I have an issue with these people. I don't really care about the content creators around or in Marathon. I don't really care about any content creator, no matter how much they might be shilling stuff. It's just that I find this situation interesting, and so I would like to talk about it. First of all, before we get into the meat of the things, Marathon itself looks like a perfectly fine game, an absolutely serviceable, enjoyable extraction shooter. Why do I say it looks like it's fun? Well, because I haven't played it. I've watched many of my personal friends play and stream their games for me while I was just sitting back and taking it all in. And this is my final evaluation of Marathon. It's totally and absolutely fine. It's a good game. It's just not for me, but I can fully understand why someone would play and enjoy it. I do not dislike the game, but I dislike the community that has formed around the game. A community that partially arose from Bungie's Destiny. And as an outsider to this particular franchise, I did decide to go on various forums and social media. Let's be honest, it's mostly Reddit, Steam, certain review websites and Twitter. That's basically all you have nowadays. And I wanted to check on what the discourse is surrounding the game. And what I found there inspired this video. I have seldom seen a community so desperate, so vicious, yet at the same time kind of just sad, miserable and pathetic. Honestly, I actually feel a little bit bad for some of these, well, how should we call them? Zealots? Cultists? Possibly human beings? I'm not convinced, but they might be humans. The fact they act as though they are fans and supporters, big quotation marks here, of Marathon. But if anything, out of all the criticism that the game has been receiving, I think these types of people, Marathon's own player base, a part of the player base, might be the one thing that hurts the game, its potential reach, its success, and most importantly, its reputation to any outsider the most. It is the player base. It is the toxic positivity. Those humans might act as though they are big Marathon fans, but I don't really think they are. Not judging by their actions at least. Because if you were a fan of the game, you wouldn't actively hurt it and drag it down. And if I didn't know any better actually, I would argue these absolute tools are in reality some sort of controlled opposition. They are actually implanted within the community to look the game and its community as bad and unhinged as possible. So let's get into how and why that is the case. The Marathon community is, as I've already outlined, toxic positivity personified. It's nothing new, and you're probably sitting there already thinking to yourself, yeah man, that's any online community nowadays. I get it. I understand. This in-group bias cult infestation, that group thinking, the opinion bubble, that's everywhere nowadays. Might be interesting to look into why, but I'm here to talk about Marathon, even though Marathon isn't really all that unique. It's kind of like the Helldivers community, for example. We just haven't gotten to the doxing era in the community yet. Let's see how that develops, because when it comes to insane Redditors and cultists, there's basically nothing I wouldn't expect these people to do in order to hurt someone that they don't like. And by hurting, I mean like actually like genuinely trying to hurt their livelihood or even physically hurt them, you know, no matter what's feasible, just over the fact that someone doesn't like the video game that you for some reason have dedicated your livelihood to, or at least that comes across that way. Now on day one, no wait, not even on day one, way before the release of the game, when the first clips and presentations were shown, you had the Reddit spew all sorts of insane and crazy hopium about the game. Stuff that isn't even true, like things that are not true now because the game wasn't released yet. They were spinning theories about what was possibly been in the game. The developers didn't even say anything of that notion at that point in time, or there wasn't any information that could have led to some of these hype prophecies. I mean, there's no other way to describe them as insane prophecies. Some players had the most unhinged takes when it comes to what Marathon would have been in the minds of these players. The Reddit was basically overhyping the game without any real context or information, or only kind of snippets of available data at the time. That was months before the release, almost a year before the game released. And then, only for a very short time, did you see skepticism within the community. And that was that very short period when a lot of streamers and community content creators talked negatively about the initial impressions, that initial version of the game that was shown off within a specific circle of invited content creators, where the game was kind of blasted for not being good, and then the game was obviously delayed. Within that period of time, a lot of the Reddit was parroting the opinions of these content creators and big streamers. That is where there was a lot of very doom and gloom, negative, and honestly very interesting critical discussion on the Reddit, on the future of Bungie and Marathon. And then the Reddit basically died. Almost no traffic, no engagement, besides maybe a few art contributions every now and then, a few posts with like 14 upvotes. As soon as the revamped trailer launched, the trailer for the new and improved Marathon, and all of the content creators started changing their opinions, that is when obviously the Reddit gained steam. And up until the release of the game, it was nothing but copium and hype again. Almost like we are incapable of learning from the past. For some reason, we just fall for the same marketing tricks again and again and again. Some of the most insane predictions that I've ever seen, again, like not uncommon in the gaming sphere to see, sadly. Overhyping isn't uncommon, but I don't think any of this contributed positively to the reception of the game. Overhype never really translates well into reality. Even though some people want it to be true, it never is. Just let the game stand on its own. Just please let a game on release just stand on its own 2 feet. You don't have to interpret something into the game that isn't going to be there. And that was just a lead up to the release. But that is not the end of the story. On release, on point, the Reddit evolved into a cesspit of glazing, bootlicking, and sheer reality denial. Look, okay, let's talk about the player counts for a minute. I hate to be doing this, but there's no way around it. 7,000 players to 50,000 players is totally fine for Marathon. For an extraction shooter within a sea of extraction shooters, it's fine. In totality, 50,000 players pretty constantly is good for almost any game. However, it is not good for Sony and Bungie. If this game was developed by anyone else, any small indie studio or maybe a AA game, these numbers would be great. In fact, I don't even want to discuss the Steam charts too much because we have seen them all and they are very useful numbers, but it's also been kind of beaten to death. The Steam numbers are totally fine for a game that's not been developed by Bungie and not paid for by Sony. However, independent of what you think of Steam charts, you should be allowed to offer realistic criticism or just criticism from the heart on the whole of the game's release, whether you have played the game or not. And it should be obvious that Marathon isn't the big success that Sony wanted to see. And Sony, the investors, won't see this product as profitable, which is not good for Bungie. And the glazing of the game isn't contributing to a healthy discussion around that topic, which is also not good for Bungie. Glazing the game doesn't help Bungie. The cult of Sony, or the cult of Bungie, I don't know, forgot that in all of their glazing, Marathon is an extremely consequential release for Bungie, almost existential in a way. And these numbers do not look good for Bungie and Sony. When you keep in mind how much the game has cost to develop, probably, we don't have any concrete numbers. I have to say that because if I don't, somebody's gonna complain in the comments. I know we don't have any concrete numbers, but game development nowadays isn't cheap, keep that in mind. Then you have the delay, and then you have the money that Sony had to put down to even acquire Bungie. Obviously they want a certain amount of return. That is probably not going to happen with Marathon, and it's not going to happen with the current iteration of Destiny. Do you think that shutting down any negative discussion, flooding any kind of front-facing social media area that the game is in with overly positive drivel and shunning all those who offer well-meant criticism is going to help the game and help Bungie? Do you honestly think that? And what did all of it amount to? If you think, like, just look at it. The Reddit being an insufferable echo chamber, what did it actually accomplish? Nothing. Besides alienating newcomers. And this is the primary folly of these toxic cultist gaming bubble communities. You don't just get rid of the perceived haters, you know, the evil right-wing grifters, but you also bar and gatekeep, for lack of a better word, you gatekeep any genuinely interested, curious people who might have well-meant critiques, or maybe they're even coming from a place of ignorance or a lack of knowledge. They just have questions. They don't know what's going on. They see something or perceive something that's bad, maybe because they lack input or information. And then these people go into the few official community spaces that are available, which again, let's be honest, it's going to be the Reddit, the Steam forums, or somewhere on Twitter. And then they are bombarded with vitriol and hate just for asking a simple question, or maybe just even leveling just a little bit of a complaint. You think that is going to be healthy for the game's longevity? And do you think that that is increasing the community and the player numbers? Or do you think this might have an sort of adverse effect on the game's performance? Here's one very important statement. You can believe it if you want or not, but the haters, whatever those people are supposed to be, whoever those people are supposed to be, the haters didn't kill the game. If anything, the off-putting cult community around the game, festering in the forums on Steam and Reddit and X, that has hurt the game much more. It also is not the reason the game is going to die, but it definitely didn't do the game any favors. Who in the fuck wants to play an online PvP extraction shooter, a competitive extraction shooter, when they are already facing a toxic community before even launching the game? The assumption obviously is this is going to be the same experience when I'm playing the game. I have to deal with the same tards when I'm playing this game, even though this might not be the case at all. Everyone in game might be completely chill, but that's the point. The behavior of the community drives potential players away. And it's also really damaging to the reputation of the game, let's be honest, having such a twat community. And let's also look at who the actual miserable people are, quote unquote, since this word is getting thrown around all the time in this discussion. Who do you think is the miserable person? The one that states merely facts, which Steam numbers are, and makes a little funny joke at the expense of the Marathon player counts, or the people who then always, like clockwork, flood and flock to the post, the tweet, the Steam forum in the question to berate and crash out on who and what is clearly meant to be just a bit of a rage bait joke. These people get rage baited not just daily. On a minute by minute basis, these people get rage baited, content creators included, and it works every fucking time. Like, what's wrong with these people? Who are the actual miserable people? Those who need to demand Steam shutdown player counts, those who need to cope in their echo chamber every day, those who ban every kind of different opinion and spam lazy, tired old memes every time they see something that is not perfectly aligned with their mental delusions. The people who want you to be excluded from the discussion unless you have purchased the game, played for more than 20 hours, and are also playing on a high skill level. Are those the miserable people, perhaps? Or the other people that just kind of honestly review the game or make a little bit of fun at the player counts? Which one of them are the miserable people again? All of the content creators making fun of Marathon. All those perceived right-wing grifters, whatever that's supposed to mean nowadays, laughing at the failure of Marathon. Do you think those are the miserable people? The people that are making bank off of laughing at Marathon. They're miserable with their lives, while the Bungie defenders lose their mind, wishing death and harm onto those simply not liking Marathon, calling them all sorts of names. Those are not the miserable, clearly people sitting on Reddit all day those are not the miserable people, obviously. These people get baited daily and they take the bait every single time. And if you look at the vitriol and the absolute hate in their replies, you seriously cannot tell me these people are happy and content. Buddy, why don't you just play and enjoy Marathon, man? Why are you out here responding to every single piece of rage bait available? And it's content creators too, yes. It's not just random online retards, it's the actual content creators that fall for this rage bait shit, or they feel the need to respond to every one of these posts every single time. Why? That does not reflect well onto the Marathon community. Also doesn't show that there is confidence in the game, in yourself, in you representing the game. You are not confident about the game. That is why you need to feverishly defend it and punch down on criticism that hard. That shows me there's a very large amount of fragile egos there at work, especially if it's content creators who partially represent the community, and if they are affiliated with Bungie, also partially represent Bungie. If these guys crash out on the most tiny, inoffensive little bit of trolling imaginable, how do you think this makes the game and the community look like to an outsider? Positive or negative? You decide. Again, where do people go for information on this game? Steam, Reddit, YouTube, maybe some sort of score website. They search for reviews, opinions, discussions. What happens if these people read the unhinged comment wars that are happening under every YouTube review, in a Reddit thread, on Steam, under every fucking X post that's being made? What happens when they try to just maybe offer some of their insight and opinion on some aspects of the game? Yeah, man, the detractors, the grifters, and the right-wing haters are not Marathon's biggest issue. Not by a long shot. The game itself is not even the issue. It's the terrible community surrounding the game and Bungie. It seems to me these people have a really hard time just enjoying the product that they have bought. Why do you feel the incessant need to defend this game if it supposedly is so great and can stand on its own? I feel, again, almost a tiny bit bad looking at these sad and pathetic, supposedly human beings. Me personally, I'm not convinced at all that these people have souls. At least when it comes to a content creator's opinion. I partially get it. You have bet your life and income on Bungie's success, and thus Marathon just cannot be bad. It cannot fail. It must not fail. But normal everyday players, what reasons do these humans, supposedly, have that makes it worth to pledge your life and reputation to and on Bungie and Marathon? A company and a game. A company that doesn't give a shit about you, and a simple extraction shooter. You don't owe the company, Sony, nor Bungie anything. You could just have fun playing the game, but every day these people get riled up by the most inane things you can imagine. You can't even play the game badly on stream. You are not even allowed to stream the game badly if you've ever said anything about it, because if you don't play the game at the highest peak of skill, some turd, some Marathon cultist is going to try to spin a story about your credibility. Guys, if it's a game journalist playing the game, the assumption should always be they're going to be shit at the game. That's nothing new. There's nothing special about it. Doesn't matter if the journalist, quote unquote, in question is left-wing or right-wing or a grifter or not, or female or not, they're probably going to be a little bit shit at the game. That's just it. But this is just one of the many communities that I have observed in the past few years, fiercely loyal to a fault and somehow indebted to a random company and a random game that, let's be honest, in a few years probably nobody will remember as anything but a fine release. Marathon will be remembered as, oh yeah, that neon colored game that was kind of fun. Why are you staking your reputation on this game? Marathon is fine. It can't hang with established titles because we are are in a reality currently where games have a month or two of relevance, then all of the zombie consumers flock to the next product until that one isn't interesting anymore. You can't just shit out a fine, quote-unquote, live service game anymore. Those times are over. Players either stick with their live service game from 10 years ago, maybe dabble a little bit in something else, rarely finish games anymore, meaning reaching like a 5-hour playtime, or they just mindlessly buy a product, consume for like 5 hours and move on. Just a look at the percentage of Steam achievement completions for recent titles. Players barely finish single player games anymore. Way less players buy and play new current year games anymore. The age of the MMO is long since over too. Look at what happened with fucking, you either get scammed when you try to cope and believe in an MMO project, or you just stick with an established decade-old MMO. That's the only choices you have. MMOs are over. And the same is the case, or is going to be the case, with live service games. There are established brands and titles, games on the market. Those products have their core player numbers, their core player communities, sunk cost fallacy, sunk a bunch of time and money into these, and so these players won't let go of their primary game anymore. And in a market like this, you can't just put out a product that is supposed to be a live service game and then it's just fine. At least when you're Bungie and Sony. You need something truly fresh and innovative to capture the audience's attention nowadays. And even then, let's be honest, even a game that captures the audience's attention and gets like 1 million players for a few weeks, even a game like that can die within a few months because the developer didn't correctly support the live service game, didn't put as much as attention as it would have needed. Battlefield 6. In short, Marathon would have had to reinvent the wheel of extraction shooters. And I don't think Cryo Archive really is that wheel. And let's be honest, Marathon just couldn't. That's like, put that on the box art. Marathon is fine, but it couldn't. It's not a big surprise because how the hell would have Bungie even managed to do that, even if you take the delay into account? And now the cult that formed around Bungie, Destiny and Marathon defend their holy golden cow, not realizing that they are the ones contributing to the negative public image, thus hurting the game's overall player base potential. Ain't nobody on the planet that takes a single look into the abyss that is Marathon, Reddit and social media discussions and then decides to buy the game knowing that these are the kinds of creatures you will also have to deal with in the game on a daily basis, potentially. If you are one of the few that literally just play Marathon and don't give a shit about anything else, you didn't engage, you don't even know anything that's going on social media in regards to the defense campaign for this game and what cope is going on and what the content creators are doing, then thank God for you. Good on you. Never take a look at the Marathon social media posts. Like, please just don't even look at the shit that's like, just listen to this video. I maybe should have said it before, but just don't look at anything. Like, you're one of the good guys. Thank God these people still exist. But you know, thank God for you. Keep on having fun as long as Marathon exists. And if you somehow are one of the insane Marathon glazers, first, how the fuck did you even manage to last this long? And second, should be obvious, but you should tone down the dick sucking because Bungie's not gonna reward you and it's not gonna do anything to the external reputation of the game. It's also not gonna make Marathon stick around for longer. That's kind of up to Bungie. Sorry, none of us can do anything about this. It's up to Bungie, it's up to Sony, if they wanna keep the game around, and that's it. And with that, the Yep session is over. Hope you enjoyed this version of Gaming Slop, and I'm gonna see you next time.